Hi everybody, Scott Seivwright here. These are a series of videos that are helping have a little bit of discussion around about the kind of things that we could do as part of the Agile 20th anniversary reflection event that we're starting. I'm really pleased to say that Brandon has agreed to come on board and be a facilitator. I don't think he realizes what's happening. Brandon and I worked together and had huge fun when we worked together, and really just say a few words, Brandon, about who you are, where you're at, and what makes Brandon tick.
Oh, thanks, Scott. Yeah, so Agile coach by design, very interested in psychology and the makeups of people and teams. I was born in Zimbabwe, then South Africa, and then over to Scotland 3 years ago, and just about helping people to achieve their outcomes.
Excellent. So you're from Africa. You've done a lot of work in Africa, I know, with Microsoft and things. What's the African, what's the potential for the African involvement in this, do you think? Is there a lot of Agilists out there?
I definitely think it's growing. They were definitely about 5 years behind the rest of the world. But the organizations there that we did some work for, and they were quite big, companies like Deloitte and Aon, Barlow World, those types of companies, they were all embracing it, starting off with the older techniques like DSDM and then moving up to newer ones. Obviously, like with any large scale transformation, it takes place slowly.
Yeah. Well, here you go. If anyone's watching this in Africa and they think, is this for me? There you go. Come and join your African buddy here. Right. Quick thing I'd like to talk about is really psychological safety. Now, that's a really fancy jumbled word. But what it really talks about is it's kind of the analysis from Amy Edmondson around about the ability for teams to take personal risks. So some teams get on really, really well, and we've all been a part of those teams, and you feel you can almost say anything, and you can feel contribute, and you can innovate. And in other teams, that's due to some kind of toxicity, it's gone. Don't know why, but people don't talk, people don't feel safe to talk. So I just want to talk about your experiences of that and anything that you could advise me on. So I'm here to learn, and part of the reason of all these videos is I want to kind of learn from asking people to know about these things. So what tips have we got? And my concerns are a couple of things. One is it's an online group, so we're not going to be talking in person. And the other thing is we have lots of different backgrounds and lots of people that perhaps think they're right, and others, other opinions are less important than them. So small things. So you can break it into chunks as well. So what kind of things would you advise me to do as we set up that kind of leadership team, as we cascade that out into more of all these small events that we're going to try and do, and some of the bigger things we're going to try and do. So what advice do you have for me?
Yeah, great topic. I would say most of the time, establishing rules up front is better, because if you establish what the rules that are going to guide us, as you would in a team charter, the less likely someone is to do something wrong, because they've already been informed of how it is we're most probably going to go about things. Things like good behavior, bad behavior. Collaborating with people in order to create these at the start of a session is also quite good. With teams, something I've done to help them highlight the behaviors I'm looking for is I've stated, or I've got the Scrum Master to state what it is they're expecting from the session. An example might be stakeholders at a demo. We're not here to solutionize. We're here to give feedback, and by doing that, you're guiding them in the right direction versus waiting for them to do something wrong and then trying to chastise them after the fact. It's about managing expectation. Okay,
that's really interesting. And out of the work context, I feel in our community, some people are seen as being, what was it George Orwell said? All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. So I'm often intimidated by, meeting people. So Alistair Coburn, for instance, when I first met Alistair, he's a lovely guy. We're great friends now. But when I first met him, it's like, I read his crystal clear book back, even before I'd heard about the Agile Manifesto and things. And and it really influenced me. So when you come to meet these people, you actually you don't want to misspeak in front of them. It's like you don't want to. Oscar Wilde said, right? It's better to say nothing and have people think you're an idiot than open your mouth and remove all doubt. I think it was Oscar Wilde. So what advice have you got? Of let's say you're a Scrum Master from South America or Africa, and suddenly you're in a group here, and Jim Benson's here, and some of the Agile Manifesto signers are here. What's that? That can be a fear. That can stop you not wanting to get involved.
You've actually just given me an idea. I've implemented this in another way, but the thought that crossed my mind there was I would usually ask the team, well, how psychologically safe do you feel? How likely are you to talk in this meeting? When we do training interventions, I like to find out, well, who is the introvert in the room? And people on a scale of 1 to 5 give their number. And if I notice that someone's a 1, I then try and make them feel more comfortable or put them in a position where it's easier for them to talk. Maybe they can collaborate in a way using a post-it instead of talking. So in the same way, maybe we could do something like that where we say, well, how psychologically safe do you feel? And that may bring up some feelings, it may bring up some questions, but I definitely think that there's something about building an understanding of each other. Have you ever heard of Bolton and Bolton social styles?
No.
Okay. Well, it's a seminar I've done where we spend literally 1 minute identifying what your social style is, and then we show the group who you are, and that gives us an idea of how best to communicate with you.
So I think you're going to possibly be hitting up to having multiple thousands of people involved. So I'm not sure we can do that.
No.
So one of the things I'm thinking is rather than having one event, right, having lots of smaller events. I think Dave Snowden called it letting 1,000 flowers bloom. So each of these small events are a flower. They all work under the enabling constraints that are pretty similar. Sounds like the working agreements that you talked about. More or less everyone's really self-empowered to do what they want. But in those smaller teams, I think that Bolton and Bolton, was it Bolton and Bolton? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that might work as the smaller teams kind of kick off and get into their ways of working. Yeah. Any advice for those smaller teams if, let's say, 6 people get together and it could be from anywhere, it could be different countries, different first languages and anything else. Any kind of thoughts about how they could maybe kick off?
I definitely think some sort of energizer to understand who and what people are. A great one I've done before is where I draw a picture of myself or a hobby that I'm interested in, and next to my name on a mural or a whiteboard. And it just stimulates a little bit of conversation. There's definitely something about building rapport with people before you start to engage. I think what we once did before at NatWest was we had a retro, but it was a huge number of people, and we did exactly what you said. We started off in the big group. We said a whole bunch of rules, but we didn't know each other. Some people were new, and then we went into teams, but they weren't the teams that the people were in. They were with different people. And it was awesome because they collaborated because they understood how they were supposed to collaborate. They understood what psychological safety meant.
Yeah. So they could play the game because they knew the rules, and they were all they were all willing to do that. Okay. All right. And any last words? Again, I don't want these videos to be too long because I want people they're going to read them on the break. Any last thoughts? Worries, risks?
Well, you know what? The risks are that we're all unique, and people are going to be toxic or have bad behaviors, and we should feel free and find a way to deal with those situations that doesn't make people feel completely uncomfortable. Because I'm interested to know, from a South African perspective, if I say something that someone says is, wow, that's a bit inappropriate, I'd like to know.
That would never happen, Brandon.
It would never, as a South African. That's so not going to happen. But I think we need to find a way and agree on a way that each of us wants the feedback.
And that's probably better done in small groups, because
Absolutely.
Because we don't. I find as well, if we get legalistic and everyone's thinking too much about empathy, anything about empathy. I mean, sometimes people say something and I'm just completely ambiguous as to what it means. So
I think empathy is huge. One of the things that you've often said is best intentions.
Yeah, assume that, yeah.
And I think you need to assume best intentions at all times on these types of calls. And that could be one of the rules. In terms of empathy, unfortunately, sometimes we don't experience it because we can't or don't have the cultural diversity to do that. But I think most people are in a willing space and have the right mindset. And if they don't, well, let's take them on the journey. Let's not reject them and say, oh, you're intolerant, so get out of our faith. It's not like that. We should bring in the toxicity and help it, not use it as a catalyst for separation.
That's a great line. I'm going to end on that one. Catalyst for separation. Yeah, we want to come together, so we don't want a catalyst for separation. Love it. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate chatting to you. And I think I can see your house behind your shoulder there. That's on the map.
Africa.
Right. I think you pointed at Siberia. All right. Thank you very much. Brilliant.
Scott.